do first is just, like we did before, just
Sure.
say your name, state your title here. You're the owner of the business, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so.
Yeah, my name is James Gray. I'm the owner here at the Michigan Institute of Athletics and Scorpion Fighting Systems, Brighton, Michigan. You know, it's a full-service mixed martial arts facility and fitness facility.
Okay. How long have you been open here at this location?
Just under 3 years.
Okay. And what kind of training do you do, just concisely?
I mean, we have everything. We have children that train here. We work with our community. We have free community events. We work with the Livingston County Juvenile Court for struggling youth, and we go all the way up to the extremes of we have over 20 professional athletes that train here. Our athletes have competed around the world. Organizations like the UFC, Bellator, Ryzen, the highest level. So everything from someone just starting out. If you came to me and wanted to learn jiu-jitsu today, we could start with your first class in the beginner level, all the way up to some of the best athletes in the world. And we have other professional athletes from multiple countries that travel to train here.
Great. Can you tell me, at the beginning during the executive order, did you close business here?
100%. So I think it was March 13th. Don't quote me on the exact date, but as soon as we found out about this COVID-19 event, I completely shut the business down. I quarantined. My girlfriend has an autoimmune disorder, and I was like, I'm not taking any risks with this. I mean, this is my life's work, but the health and safety of the people around me are incredibly important, so we immediately closed down.
Okay. And when did you make the decision to reopen business? And tell me a little bit about what went into it.
Around the middle of April, I started to question the information that was being provided, because as soon as we closed down, I went to work. I mean, if my life's passion and project is going to be on hold, I had to dedicate all that time to something. So I have an incredible network of people, so I started reaching out to doctors that I knew, House of Representatives member, ICU nurses, as many people as I possibly could to try to figure out, let me get a grasp on this thing. Is this worse than what we're being told? Is this exactly what we're being told? Or is it not as bad? Somewhere around mid-April, I had compiled enough information that I said, when I start creating proper perspective, I think the risk is manageable under circumstances, and May 1st, I went public and said, you know, at least for where we're at right now, I'm gonna open back up.
Okay. Did you have a specific date that you reopened to customers?
Yeah, so May 4th at 9 a.m.
Okay, was that on Monday?
Yeah,
Okay.
Monday, May 4th.
Great. Have you been contacted by state or local authorities? Have you had conversations?
So I was in contact, and I actually reached back out to like the public health director and stuff. I took the initiative. So when I made that video and went public, it's because I didn't want to hide anything. I wanted to be very, very upfront. I didn't want to be a person that was just sneaking people in the train and like, you know, defying the executive order, because I didn't believe in what I took a stand for. You know what I mean? I wanted to go public and say, hey, I will speak to anyone with this, which is why you and I are sitting down and speaking right now. I said, I will have dialogue with anyone. I will go over information with them. I've spoken to several people that are in the hot spots of what is taking place in Michigan, and I've compiled information that allows me to feel confident in such a difficult decision.
Okay. And what was the response generally from state and local authorities? You're back? Was there a
so we were in communication. I mean, we had multiple phone calls back and forth, and it was just the idea that like this is an incredibly difficult time, and action could come against you. We don't know where this will lead to. I mean, one of the gentlemen that I won't name, but one of the enforcing agencies basically said, you know, I think you should stand down. And then him and I spoke for over 30 minutes on the phone, talking back and forth, or it felt like 30 minutes, it might be 25. But, and at the end of it, I said, I'm not going to stand down, and I've laid out all the reasons why. If you can disprove anything that I'm saying, or, you know, if this is inaccurate, please, like, I'm the man that in the face of evidence, I will absolutely reconsider my stance. But this is why I'm making that decision. It's probably the jiu-jitsu coach nature in me that if I can't break everything down to an exact little detail, I need to learn it. I have to figure out why. That's just the way that I work.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the concerns that made this such a critical issue for you. I know in the video that you posted, you mentioned rents, the health of your customers. Tell me what exactly.
I mean, I don't really think
you investigate this.
Obviously, rent is due to a landlord, but I don't think that has anything to do at all with my decision. The health of people is always something you have to be concerned about. You need to figure out: is this threat going to kill millions of people? Is it going to kill hundreds of thousands? Is it going to kill, 60,000? What threat actually exists? And in perspective, how does that threat line up with everything else that exists? So I feel like people keep trying to drive it to, are you doing this for profit? Are you doing this for money over people? No, absolutely not. I wouldn't even allow that idea. So it's just about the information. Like in the same time frame from February 1st until May, just under 800,000 people died in America. 800,000. So now you need to put everything into perspective. So pull the COVID number out, knowing that the COVID number in many cases being reported as people that die with COVID, not from COVID, and any reporting that you can find on the CDC website only includes known COVID and all presumable. So then, you know what? Allow the number to be as inflated as it is. Look at it in comparison to what other risk we take on a regular basis. Create proper perspective with as much information as humanly possible that you can do, and make judgment calls. So that's what I did. I don't want to say that it was because I need money. We're all in that boat, man. We're all in that struggle. Like, I mean, you're essential. You know what I mean? My life was deemed non-essential. It's a hard thing to consider. Is my life's work not essential? If there's a certain level of risk, we have to sacrifice for our people. It's painted on my wall. We are all one. Why are all the flags hung up in this building? Because I believe, I don't care in your background, your creed, your color, any of those things. I'm not even attached to a political party at all. I just thought, I'm going to look at the information, I'm going to develop a proper perspective, and I'm going to do the best that I can in a tough time.
How have your customers responded? What has been the general response?
So when I made that video on May 1st, I literally said, they're either going to butcher me, they're going to support me, but you know what? I knew it was going to be emotional. Because, I mean, it's a bold statement to make, and it's a bold stance to take. It's been unbelievably supportive from my people, which speaks volumes, you know what I mean? But like I said, if I filled that video with bad information, misinformation, it would have got crucified in a moment. I would have been slaughtered by all these experts and top level people saying, you're lying to people. And I would want that. I would never want to perpetuate bad information that puts people that I love at risk. You know what I mean? But it has been the opposite. The amount of support has been shocking, to say the least.
Any particular precautions, changes you've made to the business as it exists now?
So we brought in people, you know, to fully bleach the academy and really scrub things down. People that were, one of the women was a cleaner for a local hospital that knows how to disinfect, went through this whole place with bleach. And I want to be very clear. It's not that I believe that you can stop a respiratory infection, because, like, let's be honest, if we cleaned your home today, to the fullest degree, we got rid of it. If I come in there sick tomorrow, I could infect you. Like, you're trying to minimize risk. As you can see going on in the background right now, they're mopping the mats again. When you walked in, you witnessed them wiping everything down. We are doing as much as we can, but again, there's a certain amount of risk you can eliminate in life, and there's a certain amount of risk you cannot eliminate in life. We are gonna try to do our best. Like I've openly said to everyone that walks through the door, if you want to wear PPE or gloves or anything, please do what you feel keeps you safe. Or if you're super concerned, don't come here. You don't need to. Don't come here. This is for your physical fitness, your mental fitness. You're trying to do things to, anxiety is a real problem in society. There was an opioid epidemic that everybody was talking about right before. The suicide is a terrible thing. People losing their jobs leads to disaster. If my stats aren't wrong, during the Great Depression, didn't we have about 15 million people unemployed at the worst? Right now we're over 40 million. Now we have benefits. What's going to happen when those benefits run out? What's going to happen when those people can't get those jobs back? What's going to happen when all the deferred payments are now due and people don't have the capacity to take care of it? So I have to create a proper perspective with every element of this thing and say, man, are we making the right decisions? And there's going to be some decisions that are tough. We're in an emotional time. No one wants to risk human life, but viruses are a part of the world. But luckily, so is an immune system. So is an immune system response. So is being able to look at common denominators and isolate people that are at high risk. There's certain things that we can do to minimize this damage. But man, like if I could snap my fingers and get rid of COVID-19, I would. And there's just a lot of scared people because you use words like it's novel and that terrifies people, but coronavirus has been around for decades. You know that. They've been lumped into flu-like symptoms forever. So I'm not saying that erring on the side of caution was wrong. I'm actually glad we did, and I did too. I shut down immediately. But wouldn't you take all of our past history, knowledge of COVID-19, of coronaviruses, and apply that now? We literally derived our mortality rate statistic by taking hospitalizations versus deaths. I'm going to quickly show you how badly that can be miscued. The 2017 flu hospitalized 959,000 people in America from the 2017-2018 flu. 61,000 died. 61,099 was the number the CDC put out. That's over a 6% mortality rate. But we would never, ever, ever, ever tell people that. Why? You have to create proper perspective. You have to say, well, how many people were infected? that showed no symptoms, that were asymptomatic? How many people were mild? How many people were moderate? How many people's immune system naturally provided the antigens and produced the immunity to give us the threat of the virus? If you don't do that, you can steer people's fears. I mean, you got to think they don't know. They're trusting us. So until you study the subject matter, you would hear a number like that and be terrified. You'd be locked in your home thinking 3 to 10% of the American population is going to die. And the worst part is, I've had multiple reports come out and say, are you a doctor, James? Are you this? Are you that? Our experts gave us this model. The London Imperial model was done by Dr. Neil Ferguson out of the UK, and he predicted that up to 2.2 million Americans were going to die. And that prompted all of our action. With that being said, he dropped his prediction within 2 weeks from 2.2 million to 250,000. Doesn't that mean we should maybe evaluate our response? If you and I together as people sat down and we thought that 2.2 million people were going to die, we would probably act one way. If it was then 250,000 in the United States population, we would probably react another. Since then, it has dropped down to a bad seasonal flu level. You need to ask why. Why did this information change? When you see that you had the contagion factor completely so far off. And what that means is it was way more widespread. They had no idea, and you know what, I can even accept that maybe they just made a mistake. He had no idea. It was incredibly widespread. What does that actually mean? That shouldn't mean you should be scared. It's not as deadly. Because way more people had it. So then you have to verify those things. You have to say, well, how can we prove that? Antibody testing is the #1 way to prove that. Stanford, the University of Southern California, 2 places in Boston, even New York has produced results. They said, forget any predictions, forget any caution, forget what James Gray says or anybody else. We're taking data, and we are looking at data to draw conclusions. They have shown that this is so much more widespread than being reported. That's how we create perspective. And I'm obsessive, so I went above and beyond. I went and said, I'm going to look at Dr. Neil Ferguson's history. I'm going to look at do you know during the bird flu, he predicted 200 million deaths. Less than 10,000 died from bird flu. Do you know during mad cow, he made wild predictions that were so incredibly inaccurate, it's insane. He did the same for swine flu. He did the same for foot and mouth disease. So if I had a history of saying any prediction and people followed me, and then I was so unbelievably far off, wouldn't you at least have a little bit of healthy skepticism and say, before we shut the world down, before we destroy the United States economy, before we allow any of this madness to take place, let's at least verify, or you know what? We're going to closely monitor this. Maybe we do take full caution, because one of these times he could be right. But wouldn't you closely monitor it? Wouldn't you just wait for the data? And the one other thing that I think was the most disturbing to me that people need to ask, and I hope you look into this, is when I first got contacted by a friend that works at Sparrow Hospital, and they said, we had people die in a car accident that tested positive for COVID, and we had to put that in a death count. And I blew that off. I said, there is no way that we would do that. We wouldn't do that. Then I was watching the news, and the Illinois Public Health Director got on television and said, I want to be very clear how we're classifying COVID deaths. We are classifying anyone that dies with COVID as a COVID death, even if they die of clear alternative sources. At this point, I still don't want to accept the words that I'm hearing, because my life, all of my life's work, everything that I've ever tried to create hangs in the balance. And I go, this can't be true. So I found a connection through my network of a girl that works in the hardest hit community in the ICU here in Michigan, who's a nurse. I got her on the interview, and halfway through the interview, I brought up that Illinois Public Health Director, and I said, I want to know, this is what she said. I don't believe that. Please tell me how we're actually reporting this. Her eyes light up in the interview. She gets this look in her face, and she goes, we were instructed to do it that way. It's not that we believe that's right, but we're told that that's how we're taking into account COVID. Now, for whatever reason, maybe it's just to later on track how many people had a virus. Maybe it's, I mean, the hospitals are getting $13,000 per COVID. That doesn't sound like a lot. What is that times 100? Do you understand what I'm saying? Oh, times 100, that's $1.3 million. So every 100 patients that you diagnose with COVID, that's $1.3 million. Could that persuade people? I don't know. But my life's work hangs in the balance. You are looking at a man that, like, don't try to spin this that it was about profit. But if I'm going to trust my leaders, my experts, all of these people with this vital moment in time. Can you turn the music off, please? Can you shut the music off?
You were hitting on good point there.
Unplug it. Oh, sorry, it's Mark. Sorry, can you unplug it just so we can finish this? I'm sorry, I thought it was one of them. But that's massive.
We're starting off, sort of, this is your life's work that you're considering.
Sorry about that, Mark.
Factors.
So this is literally my life's work. So if I'm going to lose my life's work, I want it to be because the information was there, it was valid, we knew about it, and we made the best decisions we could with that time. Can you imagine, pretend you're sitting in my chair, imagine 6 months from now, I lost everything I ever worked for, my whole livelihood was destroyed, I lost my ability to pay my mortgage, to take care of my family, to run my business, and the information was there, we just weren't reporting on it. How would that feel? I refuse to go down like that. I am not a doctor, I am not an expert, but I can look at data. I've probably, the amount of time I've spent on the CDC website, I never wanted to learn these statistics in my life. I did not know that just under 2.8 million Americans die every year. I didn't know that. That's alarming to me. I had no idea. But what that does is it creates perspective, which is the big thing that I keep trying to tell people. Please don't think this is an emotional person that does not care about people making decisions. This is trying to do my best as a man to take information and make tough choices.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Anything you weren't able to reach? I do want to ask you specifically, have you been contacted by Livingston County authorities, county sheriff, or a state authority?
I haven't spoke directly to the sheriff,
okay,
but he spoke on our behalf in one of the interviews. Someone reached out to me, spoke on our behalf, and I have been in contact with several of the officials that are involved in what can or cannot take place, but I don't want to name them because I don't know if they would want me to.
No, I understand that. Are you concerned for the future of your business here, just being able to operate in the midst of all this? I mean, are you optimistic about being able to continue operating your business?
Yes, I would say I'm optimistic about the ability to continue. Hang on one second. We'll just redo that question.
Absolutely. I can stop recording.
Yeah, we stop.
Absolutely.
Thank you for calling the Michigan Institute of Athletics. I'm James speaking. How may I help you? Yeah, we're going to be we're going to offer our classes to the general public again very, very soon, but we're not right now. We are open, but we're just open to our members and our supporters from before because there's so many like really emotional people out right now, and we're trying to get the information, and we just don't want to have people trying to crucify us on anything that they can. So we're going to open very soon to the general public. You'll see a post on my Facebook, on our website, on our other things, but very soon, I promise, we'll be able to get people in the door and try to get you to work. No, I appreciate it. Everybody's probably going stir crazy. So thank you very much for the call, and please reach back out when you see that we're open. Thank you, sir. Sorry about that.
That's totally fine. I understand. Hey, you're running a business. There's a lot of important phone calls, I'm sure, right now, and a lot of concerned customers. So going back to that, I was asking, are you optimistic about being able to continue operating during this executive order?
Yeah, I would say I'm optimistic just because, like I said, I've compiled so much information, and I believe that anyone that was going to shut me down, with as public as I've been, as outspoken as I've been, I would hope they've done their due diligence and their homework as well, because I just feel like in such a crucial time to make a difficult decision, decide, do you destroy my life and millions of other people that are out of work or they're about to lose everything they've built, you would obviously back that with the best available information, right? So I think that if that is true, like an if-then theory, if that is true, then I believe I'm optimistic because I think the information's out there. And some of our elected officials and stuff may not have invested as much to it. They may just be getting their information from other sources. Like I've seen so many people throwing unbelievable amount of hate at our governor and at our elected officials, and I don't feel that way because I don't even know what they do know. I don't know how invested they are. I mean, I'm sure, I don't want to say that wrong. I know they're invested in this, but I don't know what information they actually have in front of them, where when they look at people like me and they're making decisions for our country, I don't know what they know. So I don't want to lean on the side of thinking, like I've seen people suggesting they're these horrible people that don't care about people. I just have a hard time believing that. I believe that people are trying to do their best, but you need information to do that, and you need perspective.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it very much.
I think this went very well. I have everything I need. There's nothing else you'd like to add?
No, man, that's it. I don't want to, it is what it is. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so as far as editing, I may make some edits to make it just more concise.
No, I
Generally,
understand.